Hi, I'm here to look at chapter 30 of the Tao Te Ching. And I will start, of course, by reading from the Regina Akers translation. I named this chapter Necessary Action. A devotee of the way who assists in governance will not use force to dominate and control the world. That kind of action backfires because one's way of being is always returned. Where one who lives by the way dwells, there is healing. Why would you want to birth thorn bushes? After the army leaves, there will surely be a year of famine. One adept in the way will achieve necessary results and then stop without seeking to take more through force. Achieve results without condescending pity. Achieve results without destruction. Achieve results without conceit or arrogance. Achieve results, but only those that are necessary. Achieve results without ambitious striving. The worn out ways of the world are not the ways of the way. If it is not of the way, it may begin, but it will also end. And this last idea we actually saw when we were looking at chapter 29 too. We saw the idea that, those who want to take over the world and control it cannot succeed, right? Things like that can begin, but they will also end. They're not going to be eternal. They're not going to be forever because that is not the way of the way. And of course, we've talked about the fact that the Tao Te Ching was actually written for officials, um, military leaders that serve the emperor. And so, of course, war is something that the Tao is going to talk about. And some of us may feel like war doesn't have a lot to do with our personal life, but I beg to differ. I think that sometimes we try and control situations, make them go the way we want them to go. And when we are trying to force in any way, that is a type of war. At the same time, we can't always just lay down and let things be as they are. As crazy as it sounds, there are times when we know it is our role to face something rather than avoid it. So, where's this balance? Where's the balance between control, taking over, wanting things to be my way, and avoiding putting our hand in the sand, ignoring that which we are supposed to handle? I would say that we know that balance with guidance. If we really are paying attention within to intuition, we know when we're trying to control and we should take our hands off. We also know when we're trying to avoid and we need to step in and face whatever it is and take necessary action. So, with that in mind, let's look at this chapter again. A devotee of the way who assists in governance will not use force to dominate and control the world. So we aren't going to try to control things. We aren't going to try to make everybody do things our way. That kind of action backfires because one's way of being is always returned. I love that sentence. One's way of being is always returned. So we want to pay attention to our way of being in the world with everything all of the time. Kind of reminds me of Jesus's comment about do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If our way of being is always going to be returned, then we want to be in the way that we would like to receive, right? In the way that we want returned to us. So we don't want to be controlling. How many of us like to be controlled? How many of us like to be coerced? How many of us like to be manipulated? We don't, right? I don't think any of us do. So we don't want to be that way with others. Our way of being is always going to be returned. Where one who lives by the way dwells, there is healing. And again, that's because that way of being kind of spreads, right? If it's going to be returned, then it's also affected someone else, right? So wherever we are being centered according to the way, not purposefully, because we're only focused on ourselves and our own way of being. So not purposefully, not with intention, but naturally, that way of being is going to spread. And so there's going to be healing about us, some of which we may be aware of, some of which we may not be aware of, but there will be healing about us if we stay centered in the way. So where one who lives by the way dwells, there is healing. Why would you want to birth thorn bushes? Why would you want to birth thorn bushes? Why would you want to be controlling, be manipulative, be demanding, and have that spread around you? After the army leaves, there will surely be a year of famine. No good is going to come from that. One adept in the way will achieve necessary results and then stop. If I know it's my role to face something and deal with something, I will do that because it's my role to do it. But I'm not going to go any further than is absolutely necessary to achieve the necessary results. Achieve results without condescending pity, without looking down on others. Achieve results without destruction, without, being the bull in the china shop, right? Without, just not caring at all about anyone or anything and just coming in there and rawr, rawr. Achieve results without conceit or arrogance. Achieve results, but only those that are necessary, being very clear on what our job is to do and doing that and then stopping. Achieve results without ambitious striving, right? Without trying to gain something for myself, whether that's attention, other people giving me credit for having faced it and managed it, power, money, you name it. The worn out ways of the world are not the ways of the way. Okay, so admittedly, the world does things that way. We saw that in the previous chapter too, right? Perhaps there are leaders and followers. Perhaps some snort with displeasure and some boast with pride. Perhaps some struggle and some gain. Perhaps some are oppressed and some conquer, right? That is the way of the world. But remember, to be not of the world, right? The sage removes their own extremes. The sage removes their own extravagance. The sage removes their own arrogance. We stay centered in the way. The worn out ways of the world are not the ways of the way. If it is not of the way, it may begin, but it will also end. This chapter is about being tuned in so that we know what is our role to play and what is not our role to play, what we are to just allow it to be as it is. And then when we are doing what it's our role to do, make sure we're doing what needs to be done, but not going overboard, not trying to gain anything for ourselves, not trying to control people or events. I would say there are two possible assignments in this chapter. And you can pick your assignment, or maybe you'll kind of do both, just depending on how things go in your life. One is assuming that something comes up that needs to be faced, something comes up that needs to be handled. Paying attention to making sure you are doing that in accordance with the way, that you are doing what it's your role to do, but you're not overdoing it. You're not going too far, right? You're not being the controller or anything like that. The other assignment might be if it doesn't feel like there's anything in your life right now that needs to be faced genuinely, then I would say pay attention to this line that says one's way of being is always returned. Just practice being, that way of being that you want returned. So either assignment or both. Maybe when you first start practicing this chapter, there won't be something to face. So you're going to start off by practicing that way of being. But then maybe something will come up. And at that point, you'll shift into facing what needs to be faced, handling what needs to be handled, but not going too far with it. Let me share another translation of chapter 30. This translation is from Dwight Goddard, and you'll notice it's 1919. He called it "Be Stingy of War." When the magistrate follows Tao, he has no need to resort to force of arms to strengthen the empire, because his business methods alone will show good returns. That's kind of like that way of being is always returned. His business methods alone will show good returns. Briars and thorns grow rank where an army camps. Bad harvests are the sequence of a great war. The good ruler will be resolute and then stop. He dare not take by force. One should be resolute, but not boastful. Resolute, but not haughty. Resolute, but not arrogant. Resolute, but yielding when it cannot be avoided. Resolute, but he must not resort to violence. By a resort to force, things flourish for a time, but then decay. This is not like the Tao, and that which is not Tao, like that which is not Tao-like, will soon cease. All right, that's that for chapter 30. I'll see you when I come back for chapter 31. Bye.